Indian weddings are not merely a moment where a groom meets a bride. They are a grand mirror reflecting a history of myths, a clash of beliefs, and a blend of rituals that may appear strange on the surface, yet conceal a distinct logic and symbolism that can only be understood within their cultural context. India is a land where temples of gods stand beside pepper markets, and where mountain tribes meet astronomers, turning wedding ceremonies into a stage where emotion and economy intersect. Lineage meets destiny. Playful laughter over the shoe game contrasts with the solemnity of astrological rites. From frog weddings performed to summon rain, to traditions where the husband moves into the bride's home instead of the other way around. From the legend of Mars shaping the fate of relationships, to mass wedding ceremonies that ease the burden of poverty, each ritual here is not merely a curious tale, but a window into understanding the Indian individual and their relationship with nature, the heavens, and society. In this video, we embark on an extraordinary journey through India's rich mosaic, exploring some of the most remarkable and unusual wedding traditions, where symbolism meets mythology, law intersects with society, and heritage collides with debate. By the end, we may discover that what appears strange from the outside is perfectly logical from within. So, stay with us until the end, and don't forget to support us by liking and subscribing to receive all our latest content. When we describe India as a cultural mosaic, the communities of Meghalaya offer one of the clearest examples of this diversity. In this mountainous region live the Khasi and Garo tribes, where a full matrilineal system is practiced. Lineage and inheritance pass through the mother's line, and children carry the mother's family name rather than the father's. After marriage, the bride does not move into the groom's home. Instead, the husband relocates to live with the wife's family, making the maternal household the true center of family life. Inheritance is granted specifically to the youngest daughter, as she bears the responsibility of caring for the parents and ensuring that the household remains open for future generations. Within this context, the traditional concept of dowry is completely reversed. In most parts of India, the bride's family is expected to provide money and gifts to the groom's family. In Meghalaya, however, it is the groom's family that offers what is known as a bride price to the bride's family, often more symbolic than material. In this way, marriage becomes a balanced social and economic contract, where the husband is viewed as the newcomer who must establish his place within the wife's household, rather than the other way around. In Vedic astrology, the planet Mars, known as Mangala, occupies a central role in shaping the course of marital relationships. If Mars appears in certain astrological houses, such as the 1st, 4th, 7th, 8th, or 12th house of a natal chart, the individual is said to be affected by what is known as Mangalic dosha or Kuja dosha. This placement is believed to bring tension and conflict into married life, potentially leading to separation or even the loss of a spouse. To counter this perceived cosmic anxiety, Indian society has developed symbolic rituals designed to absorb the negative energy of Mars. The most well-known of these is Kumbh Viva, or premarital marriage. In this ritual, the affected person is symbolically married to a clay pot, later broken, or to a sacred tree such as the banana or peepal tree, or even to an idol of the god Vishnu. Once the ceremony is completed, the misfortune is believed to have been neutralized, making the actual marriage safer and more secure. These practices are not compulsory religious doctrines, but rather social traditions deeply rooted in a cultural faith in astrology. They provide families with a sense of control over fate and function as a psychological remedy that eases anxiety surrounding marital failure. At a deeper level, they can be understood as a social mechanism for restoring balance between the fear of the unknown and the human desire for stability. Among the content circulating online about marriage in India, a curious story has emerged known as the black pepper dowry. The widespread claim suggests that some tribes require the groom to offer a quantity of black pepper as a dowry for his bride. However, returning to reliable academic and journalistic sources reveals that this story is nothing more than a digital myth, with no documented basis in reality. What actually exists in India is limited to two different systems of financial customs associated with marriage. The first is the dowry system, in which the bride's family provides money and gifts to the groom and his family. This is an ancient tradition that was criminalized by law under the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, yet it remains present in society in various and evolving forms. The second system is the bride price, in which the groom's family pays an amount, often symbolic, to the bride's family, as practiced by some tribes such as the Santal, who may be satisfied with modest sums that do not exceed 12 rupees. As for black pepper, despite its prominent historical status in the state of Kerala, where it was dubbed black gold due to its enormous commercial value in past centuries, there is no connection between it and the issue of dowry in field studies or reliable research. This makes the story nothing more than a contemporary myth that spread through social media without any real foundation. In the Indian state of Assam, where agriculture and rainfall are the backbone of life, a strange and intriguing ritual emerges known as frog marriage. In this folk ritual, a female frog and a male frog are dressed in miniature wedding garments, and a ceremony is held that closely resembles a human wedding. They are seated on a small platform, local chants are recited over them, and they are then tied together with a red thread in imitation of the marital bond. After the ceremony ends, the pair is released into water or ponds in the firm belief that this act brings the favor of the gods and calls forth rainfall. From a modern perspective, the scene may appear amusing or illogical. Yet within the local context, it carries a deep symbolic language. The frog is associated with sound and water and is seen as a mediator between earth and sky. Its repeated calls during rainfall symbolize the fertility of the land and the return of life. From this perspective, the symbolic marriage of frogs becomes a spiritual ecological metaphor that embodies humanity's dependence on nature and expresses both fear and hope toward the cycle of seasons. Notably, this practice has not disappeared with progress or the introduction of agricultural technology. Some villages still resort to it during years of severe drought as a collective ritual that restores hope and strengthens community bonds. It is not merely a passing superstition, but a means of affirming social and spiritual solidarity in the face of nature's harshness. As people gather around a small symbol, the frog, to express a great wish, the coming of rain and the protection of life. In the mountainous regions of Himachal Pradesh, where agricultural land is limited and resources are scarce, a social economic custom known as Jodidara emerged. This practice means that one woman marries more than one brother within the same family. Although it may appear shocking to outsiders, it originally developed as a practical solution to prevent the division of land among brothers, thereby preserving the unity of agricultural ownership and avoiding its fragmentation. This tradition also finds symbolic and mythological roots in Indian epics, particularly the story of Draupadi in the Mahabharata, who married 5 brothers from the same family. In this way, the custom gained cultural and mythological legitimacy within its community. Despite its decline in major cities due to social and legal changes, it remains present in some villages and remote pockets. Amid wedding atmospheres filled with celebrations and solemn rituals, a playful custom appears in Punjab known as hiding the groom's shoe. During the ceremony, the bride's relatives stealthily steal the groom's shoe and then bargain with him for its return in exchange for a monetary ransom or a symbolic gift. Despite its simplicity, this custom carries an important social message. It breaks the ice between the two families and opens space for shared amusement in an atmosphere that may otherwise be charged with tension. Laughter here becomes a means of removing formal barriers and spreading affection between both sides. In southern India, particularly in the states of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, we find a unique theatrical ritual known as Kashi Yatra. In this ritual, the groom pretends that he has decided to abandon the idea of marriage altogether and will depart for the sacred city of Kashi to live a life of renunciation and asceticism. He takes up his staff and prepares to leave, declaring that he has chosen the spiritual path over family commitment. At this symbolic moment, the bride's father intervenes, carrying his umbrella and fan to persuade the groom to reconsider his decision and return to the wedding ceremony. The dialogue between the two sides is performative, yet it reflects the psychological tension that precedes a life-changing decision such as marriage, and it highlights the social role of the father as a wise mediator who restores balance to the scene. Some villages in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh are the stage for an unusual wedding ritual where the groom's procession is greeted upon its arrival at the bride's home with a shower of fresh tomatoes. At first glance, an outsider might assume that this is a form of mockery or ridicule directed at the groom and his family, but the reality is entirely different. At its core, the ritual carries the meaning of a folk charm intended to ward off evil spirits and ensure that the marriage will be crowned with success. The idea underlying this tradition is both simple and profound. The initial shock is a guarantee of future blessing. If the reception is startling and unexpected, it is interpreted as a sign that what awaits the newlyweds in their future life will be more beautiful and stable. In this way, the act of throwing tomatoes transforms from what appears to be an aggressive gesture into a symbol of good fortune and a key to a new journey under the protection of the hidden forces believed in by the local community. Notably, such rituals, despite their strangeness to the outside observer, play an important psychological role. They break the awe of the first moment and turn the tension of the procession into an atmosphere of laughter and humor, while maintaining the popular belief that a tomato reception brings blessings. Thus, this tradition becomes one of the most controversial wedding customs in India, not because it is necessarily negative, but because it reveals how cultures can create their own symbolic language in rituals of luck within Indian weddings. Among the most controversial Indian customs throughout history is what has been known as widow remarriage, or more precisely, the taboos and contradictory practices associated with it. In past centuries, a widow was viewed as a harbinger of misfortune, and she was forced to live in harsh social isolation, deprived of colors and celebrations, until her life came to resemble exile within her own community. Over time, however, and with the rise of reformist voices, Indian society began to view a widow's right to remarry as a step toward liberating women from historical constraints. Yet even today, such marriages remain controversial in certain regions, where traditional families see a widow's remarriage as something that violates custom or brings shame, while feminist movements defend her natural right to begin a new life. A small village in the state of Maharashtra did not realize that a single wedding would thrust it into the spotlight and turn an unusual scene into a global talking point. In this wedding, the couple did not exchange the traditional flower garlands customary in Indian ceremonies. Instead, they chose to replace them with necklaces made of real snakes. The scene was shocking as the groom placed a live snake, believed to be a python, around his neck and then presented it to his bride as a garland, to which she responded in kind. This symbolic exchange appeared to many as a challenge to nature, rather than a familiar ritual. Yet behind this scene, the intention was not to provoke fear, but rather to express courage, boldness, and a desire to break prevailing norms. The exchange of snake garlands was neither an ancient custom nor a hereditary religious ritual, but a bold personal choice made by a couple working in the local wildlife department. This clarifies that the event was not a social aberration, but an individual experiment carrying deep symbolism. Here, marriage is presented as a fusion between humanity and nature, and as a sign that love can transcend instinctive fears, transforming danger into adornment. Once images and videos of the ceremony spread, the wedding became a phenomenon on social media, with reactions ranging from amazement and astonishment at the daring display to criticism viewing it as a violation of social norms, and symbolic interpretations seeing it as a declaration of a renewed Indian culture that blends myth with modernity. In conclusion, it becomes clear that what we perceive as strangeness is nothing more than a cultural language rich with symbols and deep meanings, rituals that ease family anxiety, kinship systems that preserve land and lineage, and myths that require careful reading away from Orientalist imagery. Between social promise and rights-based debate, marriage in India remains a vibrant stage of diversity, where every custom becomes a story, and every story a key to a broader understanding of humanity and society. Here we reach the end of today's video. Don't miss the chance to stay up to date by subscribing to the channel and activating the notification bell.